Welcome to Life Unscripted with Rosabel and Reid, the podcast where real stories, raw conversations, and unfiltered thoughts take center stage. We're your hosts, Rosabel and Reid Zofeld, a wife and husband duo navigating life's twists and turns with curiosity, humor, and a deep love for storytelling. Here, nothing is off limits, from personal growth and identity to culture, books, relationships, and the unexpected moments that shape us. Life Unscripted is about embracing the real, the messy, and the meaningful. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable, and join us as we dive into the stories that make us who we are. No scripts, no filters, just life unscripted. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Life Unscripted podcast with Rosabel and Reid. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects so many people, whether you realize it or not. It is the psychology of accents. So, how we speak actually can influence, whether how people perceive us, whether they trust us, or even determine our opportunities in life. Reid, have you ever considered how much our accents can say about us or a person in general?
Well, I mean, I have listen. When it comes to accents, they're very fascinating. Especially when you start thinking about different parts of the country having different parts of different accents. So yeah, I mean, I guess I have thought about it a little bit, but not really too in depth.
Okay. Did you know that studies actually show that people often make snap judgments about intelligence, competency, and trustworthiness based on accents alone? So when you hear someone speak with a strong accent, whether it's a Southern accent or British or anything else, do you automatically tend to associate certain traits with them?
I would have to say yes. I mean, they can't really get from that. Stereotypes exist for a reason. So yes, I guess stereotyping someone based on an accent and where they come from or where they grew up at. Does that mean the stereotype is correct? Not all the time. And most of the time, you can probably see different variants in it. But yeah, I mean, it's part of natural human behavior to kind of stereotype someone based on the accent you're hearing.
Right. So for example, in the US, like a British accent is often seen as intelligent or sophisticated, while perhaps a Southern accent or heavy foreign accent might be perceived differently. What do you think that's it? What do you think that happens?
Well, I think it actually comes down to how it's perceived in like movies and film and TV shows. So when you start thinking about someone's interaction with a British person or even a Southern person. So if you're living in, let's say, Wyoming or Montana, and your only understanding of a person from Alabama or Georgia is based on a movie or TV show, or maybe that one person went on a late night show and was in an interview. If that's your only knowledge of that, that's where your perception will be based on. And that's the same thing you can say about a movie that involves a British person. So you're drawing from the only thing that you can actually see that makes it up, gives you an understanding of what that would be.
Right. And there's actually evidence that accents do affect hiring decisions. I mean, there's some studies that suggest that candidates with neutral or standard accents are preferred over those with strong regional or foreign accents, even if their qualifications are the same. Do you really think, this accent thing should ever matter when hiring someone?
I'd say it depends on the job. I mean, and job really specific, because at the end of the day, you start thinking about content, context, sent, message received. And if you're a salesperson, you're a person in customer service, you're a person that has to interact with other people, you need to make sure that whatever is being sent or being said is exactly what you want being said. You don't want there to be a lack of interpretation or lack of understanding from the person receiving that message.
Gotcha. So let's flip a little bit. Let's say that you have to go to a doctor or a lawyer, per se, and they had a strong accent. Would you feel any different about their expertise?
Expertise? No. I mean, I would have to say I've had a lawyer before. There one part that had a Korean accent. Not an issue. But if it had to be someone that was going to represent me in like a PR way, then yeah, maybe I would want to have someone that represents me more than just their expertise.
Right.
Overall, I mean, their expertise isn't determined by how they sound.
Well, let me tell you, as an immigrant myself, I know how much an accent can actually shape identity. For many, losing an accent feels like losing a part of the culture, while keeping it can sometimes lead to discrimination. And then, unfortunately, sometimes some people have felt in life that they had to modify the way they speak to fit in. Have you ever had to do that?
Modify my way in order to fit in. By accent, no. I mean, I've always spoke the way I wanted to speak and needed to speak. But as far as like modifying my behavior, I mean, in the Army, you got to modify your behavior all the time in order to adhere to the customs and traditions of the military. So that'd be my only real reference to it. Otherwise, I would have just, I mean, I wouldn't have to really worry about it too much, or haven't really thought too much about it around the country, even though I do know there are differences.
Right. I think one of the hardest things for me as an immigrant when it comes to accents, well, let's put it in perspective. When I was probably about 2-3 years in here, my English wasn't the best. I mean, I did have I don't know if I have much of an accent now, but I think the hardest part was to having some sort of an accent at the time being equivalent with being unintelligent or, less educated. I still remember something that happened when I was a receptionist at one time, and there's this older gentleman who kind of walked in, and I don't fully remember the whole conversation, but all I remember is him telling me, "What you look like," he said something like, "Well, you look like you never finished 3rd grade." And that, for me, that was kind of like the moment, because at first he was being a little condescending towards me for whatever reason. I don't fully understand, but I was like, well, he's an older person, maybe he's, nervous about coming to the doctor or whatever. And then when he said that, I literally looked him at the eye and I said, "Sir, the fact that I look like I never finished 3rd grade to you, it doesn't mean that I never went to college in Colombia, South America, where I come from." And, I had some college in I mean, it's like, so that was probably the hardest part. But I am thankful, because as time went by and I was able to get more into the culture, then, hopefully that's not so much the case now. Also, another thing is, for me, it's like a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, sometimes some people try to like wonder, they ask me where you're from, and that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think the problem sometimes comes when we, in general, start making assumptions, assumptions just because the way somebody looks a certain way or talks a certain way. But yeah, that's interesting.
I got one thing I can add to that based on it's something within the United States that, unless you really knew about it. See, growing up in the Midwest, it was pop.
Yeah, the pop.
In the South, soda pop. And then if you go to Florida, I guess it's a Coke. Everything's a Coke. So growing up in where I did, I had definitely had to modify that portion of my speech, because I don't want to be in, I don't know, Arizona or somewhere else and saying pop, because everyone really would look at me a little strange on that one. But it's a minor thing. It's just not necessarily incorrect, just not correct for where you're currently at.
Right. Well, I also heard stories of immigrants being told to like, hey, tone it down, tone down your accent, because, that way they can take you more seriously. I mean, do you think that's fair? I mean, or do you think society should be more accepting of different ways of speaking?
Somewhere in the middle. Okay, so in one asset, you got to think of facet. You got to think about assimilation. So it's somewhat way you're actually assimilating to the society and the culture of the area. But I don't think you should lose who you are when you beforehand.
Absolutely.
So that's why I put it somewhere in the middle, to where accept the norms of the culture and society in which you're sitting, but not necessarily lose who you are. So make the new place yours.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Did you know there's something called the code switching phenomenon? Did you ever heard about that?
Not exactly.
So that applies mostly to bilingual, multicultural individuals. It's code switch. Basically, they tend to change the way they speak depending on their audience, right? Have you ever noticed me doing that?
Oh, you? I think I know what you're referring to. And yes, it typically, let's say you're talking to your aunt on the phone.
Okay.
Talking in Spanish, and then all of a sudden you hang up the phone, and then you'll turn to me and say something to me in Spanish, not really realizing that you...
No. I think what you're referring to in this particular case is, I know it sounds familiar. It's you're thinking switching from one language to another. No, we're talking switching accents. The code switching, that's a different one, where actually people, well, I guess I don't know. I think there are two code switches. Let me tell you something that happens to me. And I don't know if, I believe that people who speak different languages probably can relate to me in this sense. And I think this is something that the brain, it's how the brain, works languages. I feel like I understand both languages pretty well, right? So my brain's, a lot of times, if almost never. I don't know. I shouldn't say almost never, but it doesn't distinguish between the one or the other. So in other words, I just know that I understand. And sometimes whether I'm speaking too fast or I'm just like unaware of it, you could see me like, whether if I'm speaking in Spanish, I can insert English words in it. And if I'm speaking in English, I can insert Spanish words on it. So if someone had to call my attention and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that." And let me tell you what's interesting. When you, it happens to me when I went back to Colombia many, many years ago. And sometimes people started looking at me like a little bit weird, because I also heard that sometimes people think you're trying to, how would you say it? That you're trying to show off or something. No, it's not. I don't know, but at least in my case, and I know many cases, you're not being malicious about it. You're not trying. It is just that I think when, you're thinking fast, and then you just know that you know the meaning of the word. So you just, the brain just insert blank space. And so, it's an interesting thing. And then the other thing is, you mentioned to me at one time, it's like you think I dream in English or Spanish.
Spanish.
But to be honest with you, when I wake up or after, if I have a dream, I cannot tell you which language. My brain just knows that it understands what's going on. So it would be difficult for me to wake up and say, hey, actually I was speaking English or I was speaking Spanish. And my brain just knows that it understands what was happening, what was being said, So very, very, very interesting. So, I mean, you do speak another language, you do?
I speak a little bit of another language.
Right. And so do you experience any of this? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, when it comes to putting words in? Well, it's because I know the other language better than I know Spanish, even though I don't know the other language really well. But yes, I'll take some of the words that I know and I'll throw it into the Spanish phrase automatically.
No, I'm talking usually it's your maternal language in that other language, not one that you want to learn. I'm talking about a language you already somehow have knowledge of.
Switching? Not so much.
Not so much.
No, not so much.
I think you have to be pretty fluent in order to do that. I'm not saying, but yeah, you have to be pretty fluent in both languages to kind of do that. So we got it that you definitely have seen me what's called code switching.
Oh, definitely.
Now, do you think if people change their accents and, well, let's say people do change their accents intentionally to fit in, or do you think it actually happens naturally?
I honestly think sometimes the accent will come naturally the longer you're exposed to an environment, but it doesn't happen very quickly. For example, if in 30 days you're automatically speaking another accent, it doesn't happen that quick, but it could be a year or two, and you notice if you go back home to visit your parents or something, yeah, you're speaking with maybe a little bit of a different way than everyone else, but you still can't hear it, but your family can.
Right. Well, another thing is apparently with globalization and social media, I've heard that some experts actually think that regional accents are fading. So in other words, more and more people are adopting a neutral type of accent, Do you think one day accents will disappear altogether?
Honestly, I don't see that really happening too much. Because if you just think about accents overall, English, there are 4 predominant English-speaking countries. Each one of them has their own little accent. Each one of them has their own little nuances. England, Australia, US, and Canada, even though Canada does have that French section of it. But for the most part, all 4 countries are different. They speak differently. They can communicate with each other, but there are a lot of nuanced differences. And do I see that kind of stuff going away? Not really, because it's cultural, not necessarily something that can be easily just taken out of it.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. If you could choose any accent in the world to have, which one would you pick?
Let's go with Bond, James Bond. Let's go with British.
Okay, that is funny. Do you know any few phrases in different accents? Let's try to say them. I don't know. I'm not good at this. Well, I can tell you this is kind of like a funny story. Golly, it was like I haven't been here actually I was getting ready to come to the States, or who knows. Anyways, I was going to college in Colombia, and it was a requirement to learn English, right? Few classes or whatever, like levels. And I remember I had a classmate. I'll tell you this, where I come from, the area, the northern part of Colombia, we are called, we're very, in general, the accent is very thick, in Spanish. It's very, like fast talking, and then also very like direct kind of thing. And so compared to the interior of the country where they're like more soft-spoken and whatnot. So the teacher asked one of the classmates, hey, so what do you do this weekend? Just like that, very soft. And then this kiddo, he said this, I went to the beach with my friend to the party. And so I looked at him now that we're talking about this and I'm like, I don't want to talk like that. I don't want to it sounds weird, it doesn't sound very natural, it almost sounds like you are bringing an accent to another accent, if you know what I mean, like one culture to another. Anyways, that idea of like not sounding very natural or very like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, the one that comes to my mind, I would have to practice it a little bit because I haven't done it in a while, and that would have been a Russian accent.
Okay.
So I'd have to really just I'd have to get into that moment. Like I said, right now I'm in between something that the way our daughter speaks is in my head right now, and I know my daughter doesn't speak in that way. That's really what's caught in that.
Oh, so. Let me tell you something that I love. She said the other day she was singing that song like, I believe I can fly. And then she said, I believe I can touch the sky. She said the sky.
Oh, she loves singing and dancing.
Yeah, she does. I was going to mention something else regarding accents. Well, or like when I first moved to Texas, it was interesting. I remember looking at a sign, and I said, Waco. It's Waco, right? And then we were talking about how, you can tell someone is, from the area now, like, when, you go in Bexar County, it's Bear County.
Definitely. It's not there. Everything is being pronounced correctly.
That's not accent.
Well, I'm saying it's correct. It's being pronounced correctly. It's just Buddha. I mean, I'm spelled Buddha. So it's just one of those things. Every place has a little bit of a different twist on it.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. I find it very interesting. What do you thought? What were your thoughts when you first met me? As far as
Honestly, I didn't realize you had the accent. So you didn't present yourself with an accent. I knew there was something based on some words you would say.
Yes.
Even to this day, there's a few words that I'll laugh at you about sometimes, only because
it's funny.
It's funny, and well, I'm your husband, so it's my job.
It's your job to laugh at me.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So, but it's all in good fun. But yeah, what's that one word, Rosabel? I'm always getting you on.
Bedroom and bathroom.
Well, what's bathroom?
No, I just remember that I said, hey, can you put it in was it bedroom, bathroom? And then you were like, hey, which one? What? Where?
Exactly. I mean, it confused me for that one moment.
Yes, but
now after 10 years, of course, I know exactly what you mean. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe that's one of those that I need to work on. But I'm telling you, I got me this. I always tell the story about I went and got this book. I don't think they make them anymore. Actually, well, they make the book. It's just that it comes with CDs, and people no longer do CDs. But anyways, it was called Pronounce It Perfectly. And it was good because it taught me how to do phonetics. And then, for example, like the difference on how to say beer, bird, the bird, little birdie flying, beer, bear, that stuff.
How hard was it to get rid of the rolled R when speaking English? I have
not been able to. I haven't gotten rid of.
Well, I mean, because nothing in the English language has a rolled R.
Yeah, I just don't say it when and then whenever I use it, I use it. I mean, that's good though. So yeah, that, and then what was the other thing I was thinking about when it comes to accent? No, so again, I think it's more on pronunciation and stuff like that. But in general, I think the way we speak is part of who we are. So accents are beautiful, they're a reflection of culture and identity, and whether they open doors or create biases, I mean, they do tell a story.
Well, they do, but what story does the one accent from Friends tell you, though?
Love story?
Of Janice? What does that accent tell you?
Which one, Janice from Friends? Okay, I'm so sorry.
Oh, God.
I thought you said, see, I heard Friends, not Friends.
Well, Fran Drescher is a totally different thing, too.
No, I that's what I said, love language, because I thought you were talking Friends. No, Janice. Yes, a little annoying, kind of, right?
Definitely unique voice.
But that was her character, right?
That was her character, definitely a unique voice. And I mean, obviously Chandler was a big fan of that up until, I guess, halfway through where he figured out Courtney Cox or Monica was the one.
Right. Well, let me tell you, what was the name of Joey? Oh, my God, he was my favorite. Joey was actually Italian, right? He has Italian background, right?
Joey Tribbiani.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Well, in real life, does he have
Matt
Italian?
LeBlanc? I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. Okay, so maybe that's what. But it was so interesting because he will say, "How you doing?"
How you doing?
What was the other famous one? Well, the "I Love Lucy" was another one. For Ricky Ricardo. Do you know about that? Hello, Lucy, I'm home. You're in big trouble.
Oh, now I am thinking about that one for a second.
That's a little old, right?
I remember it. I remember watching I Love Lucy.
And then the other one that people got me all the time was the one with that he was also another Italian. He will say something like, "Let me tell you something. I'll tell you something." God, forgot who it was. But yeah.
Or how about, "I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse."
Okay. All those thoughts are coming. There is my cousin Benny. You love that one?
Two Utes came to my mind really quick. Two Utes.
Two Utes. Two Utes.
What's a Ute?
Or like huge. It's huge. But again, it's just cute. I mean, it's again. I think we just when it comes to accents, it's how we take it, how we approach it, how we,
Well, think about the in the movie, The Kid with Bruce Willis. It's a Disney movie, and he's sitting in the airplane with this one person, and she's going out to I think Los Angeles to become a news anchor. He's an image consultant, and one of the things she brought up was, should I lose my accent? My agent is telling me I need to get rid of my accent. Bruce Willis, the image consultant, said, don't do that. Your accent is your calling card. It's what people are going to remember you by. If I'd say keep it, don't ever get rid of it.
Right. That is the case of Sofia Vergara. But again, Sofia Vergara, the actress, Modern Family, Colombian, she actually, she just couldn't get rid of her accent. And there is a reason. And that's, again, because she's from the same area, actually the same city I came from. And then Barranquilla, Colombia. And what happens is people out there, again, talk it's a very marked accent. And so those are really hard. I think the issue, I wouldn't call it an issue, but my thing was that even in my Spanish speaking, I had a neutral accent, probably because both my parents are teachers. And so I learned, I was educated on a very neutral way of speaking. So I think that actually helps if you have a neutral accent in general. If you go learn another language, I think it's easier to just kind of adapt to a more neutral as well.
That is a definite factor. I'm going to give you, when it comes to an accent, this was a true thing that happened in high school. So I'm sure if any of my high school classmates would remember this as well. So we're in Spanish class, Spanish 1, and our teacher is not, she's going to be out for a few weeks of vacation, something. So they got us a substitute. Well, this person was a Chinese immigrant or Chinese speaker, because he had a very strong Chinese accent. And we know it's Chinese because he told us about the restaurant he owned someplace. But yeah, so he was really thick Chinese accent, trying to teach a whole bunch of American kids how to speak Spanish. And I'll never forget it, because we would all look at each other like, what did he just say? What did he just say? What did he just say? And it wasn't trying to be mean, but it was one of those things where the thicker the accent in that way, you couldn't translate or say these words the correct way, because the languages are that much different.
Right. Or something else is amazing. Bill, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and remember, free speech isn't free. So see you next time on the Life Unscripted podcast with Rosabel. Please don't forget to turn on your notifications on whatever podcast platform you listen, whether Spotify or Apple Podcasts or many others. I don't remember the name. Those are the two ones that I always remember. But our podcast is on many, many other platforms. So whichever you happen to listen to, please subscribe, follow us. That always helps. And also go to www.rosabelunscripted.com so you can find more information about what we do here. Okay. All right.
And of course, if you do have a favorite accent, by all means, put it in the comments, let her know what it is, and we can discuss it a little bit next time. But for now, it's God bless America, support the troops, and beware of the Ides of March.
All right, you guys, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Life Unscripted podcast.
Bye.